I want you to remember that the head is big for a reason. Now, today's video, I'm going to be talking about proof of funds, or how you are going to be applying for your F1 student visa, or if you want to apply for a student visa to the United States, some of the things that you need to know, or how you are going to answer the visa officer when questions pops up. So please, if you are new to our channel, welcome. My name is Milton. Thank you so much for joining today. Now, remember, F1 visa is also called a student visa to the United States of America. So if you are going to be studying in the US, understand that you are going to go face to face with the visa officer. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that United States and Canada, they are two different things. You have to go for an interview at the US embassy and you face a visa officer and answer some questions. Meanwhile, for Canada, you are not going for any interview. But the documents here I'm going to be talking about are somehow similar. Okay, so this is what you need to know. Like I said, on this channel we talk about travel tips and study abroad opportunities. Please check the video description box for important links. Now, if you intend to go for your F1 student visa interview, you should understand that, one, you cannot use investment funds for proof of funds to study in the USA. Secondly, the visa officer is going to ask you a question: how do you intend to fund your academics or education, or who is going to be sponsoring your studies when it comes to proof of funds? And now I'm going to tell you how you would answer this question. But first, remember, why they are asking you these questions is because they want to know the availability of that particular money. You claim that you have it, or you claim that your sponsor have it. Okay, that is the reason they are going to ask you this particular question. Secondly, that is the physical cash. Do you have the cash? In case you are asked, give us the cash or pay your tuition fee right here, will you be able to prove that? That is what they want to know. Visa officer wants to know if the money is sufficient, if the money is enough for you to actually undertake that particular program in the United States. Okay, the money you are claiming that you have, or you are saying that your sponsor have it in his bank account. So they want to know if it's enough. Last thing the visa officer wants to know is the credibility of this money. How true is it that you actually have this money? The sources of the money, is it true that they are actually coming from these sources? These are the things that they want to know. So if you intend to know all of this, please stay tuned and watch the video till the end, because on this channel you would be getting back-to-back content as I talk to you today. Now, this is how you are going to be answering this question when you go for your F1 visa interview. If you are asked, how will you fund your education, or who is going to be funding your education, the very first thing you should know is that, like I told you, the money needs to be enough. They want to know if the money is available, and they want to know if it is actually true. That's the credibility of this money. Now, the easiest and best way to respond to this question is, one, you have to say that your school is the one who is sponsoring your education. Remember, you said your school is sponsoring your education when you are asked who is going to be sponsoring your education. There are key points here you need to know. Remember, you are always saying this in case you have a scholarship, maybe a fully funded scholarship, maybe a graduate teaching assistantship position, maybe a grant, or maybe you have a $5,000 scholarship, or maybe a $3,000 scholarship supporting your studies. Remember, there are scholarships which are fully funded and some are partial funding. All right, so if you are going for fully funded scholarship, you do not need any proof of funds again, but I will advise you to have a small portion of money in your bank account, your personal bank account, in case you are going with full funding. But if you are going with partial funding, you still need to show the remaining balance. Now, even if you have full funding or partial funding, you still need to respond to this question that it is your school funding your studies. That is the first person you have to mention that is funding your education. Mention your school first. Secondly, when they ask further, because they might look at the documents and of course they are going to see that your school is giving you just partial funding, who are the next people in line you have to mention? One, you as the primary applicant, you have to mention yourself. In this case, you have to supply your bank statement. Remember, you are supplying your bank statement, and of course, because the money is in your account, you are equally supplying the bank statement of your father in case it is your father who is going to be sponsoring your education or in the United States. You are also going to support your mother's bank statement, or to show your mother's bank statement if to support your academics, and of course your brother or sister. These are the only people who can actually stand for you to cover your academics. The reason why I didn't mention uncles or aunties is because, or friends, is because one, something can happen along the way. Since these people are not your biological family, all right, well, you might have some close or cordial relationship with them, but remember, they are not your biological family. Something can happen, and the visa officer is aware that maybe the dollar rate can go up, maybe something can happen, and maybe they can change their mind and say, we are not going to be supporting you or sponsoring your academics again. So if this happens, they are going to stop that. That is why I said availability of funds and credibility is very important for F1 student visa interview or application. So the best people is yourself as the applicant to have your own money, your father, your mother, your sister or brother to an extent. These are your immediate family, and the visa officer understand that no matter what it takes, you yourself, your mother or your father must definitely want the best for you and will obviously sponsor you. Yes, I know you want to ask a question. What about my employer or a government or the government of my country? Yes, the government of your country can equally sponsor you. Now, when it goes to the level of your employer, of course, your employer can also sponsor you. But remember, you have to show backup documents. Okay. Now, it's not every employer that will sponsor you. For example, let's assume that you are going to maybe South Dakota State University or the University of Chicago, where maybe you are going to be spending around $20,000 for tuition fee, or maybe tuition fee plus accommodation. That's 20,000 US dollars in a year. Okay, now let's assume that maybe the company you are saying wants to sponsor you, maybe their gross product per year, or maybe it's not even maybe up to $15,000. Then in that case, the company is not eligible to sponsor you, because a company whose total money does not amount to $15,000 or maybe 20,000 or even 25 or 30,000 a year is ineligible. How is the company going to survive in case they give you $20,000 from their bank account? They cannot survive. So in this case, this type of an establishment cannot be a sponsor. I hope you understand. Okay, now let's talk a little deep about how you are going to be proving. There are some group of people that really do not have sponsors who live outside of let me say, if your sponsor is not in Africa, let's assume that you are applying for your visa in Nigeria. Okay, then you maybe want to move to the USA. That's the F1 visa I'm talking about, because we are still on the F1 issue. Let's assume that maybe your sponsor is in the United States, or maybe in Belgium, Switzerland, or the Netherlands. And you are going to be using these people. But remember, always remember the first rules I said. Of course, the availability of the funds, the sufficiency, the credibility, how true it is, it still applies in this case. Even if they are in the US, they are in Canada or Australia or wheresoever they belong, they still need to verify all these details. But now it is a little bit better. The embassy or the visa officer may somehow be like, if your sponsor is outside of Africa, it makes more sense, all right, somehow, but they are still going to apply those factors I mentioned here. And now there is something, I said you can sponsor yourself, and you can also sponsor yourself through your father or mother, but your sisters or brother. When you start going to auntie, cousins, it's really, yes, they can do that, but the probability and possibility of you getting the F1 visa start decreasing. Okay, then your companies, of course, they can sponsor you. I talked about that already, so you need to consider these options. Okay, then let's talk about how the sponsorship is going to affect you when your age is more advanced. Let's assume that maybe you are going for your F1 visa interview, and you are just maybe 19-20 years of age, and you have a sponsor who lives in the US. Of course, they are still going to verify all those sources. How does he get the money? the availability of the money. All right, remember, when you are using someone as a sponsor and the person is outside of your home country, make sure that this individual is legal wheresoever he is, okay, and have all documents to prove that. Like I told you, they are going to verify sufficiency of the money, availability, how true is the money, or the credibility of the money. Okay, it applies all through. Even if you are going to Canada, it still applies. One thing you need to understand in the case of Canada, and like I have always said in my Canada videos, that when you are a married person, okay, and you are telling the consular or the embassy that your parents will phone you, or maybe your brother or sister will phone you, it doesn't really sound well to the ears of a visa officer. They might start being skeptical about what they are doing or what you are actually doing, because they believe that as a couple, it's either you sponsor yourself or your husband will now come into place, or maybe you are selling a property. Now, in the case of the USA, I'm just saying this because I want to bring out some differences for you to see. In the case of USA, a younger person who is being sponsored by maybe a sponsor in USA or maybe somewhere around the world, or maybe who the person is not in Nigeria, stand a greater chance of getting the F1 visa. The reason is because this person is still young, and the consular or the visa officer is looking at this person like the person is still young, coming out of high school, or maybe going for bachelor's or master's. But you is already maybe 28, 27, 28, 29, 30. If you are telling them that your sponsor is in the USA, they might also begin. It also plays a very great role here. Like, the chances of you getting the visa starts somehow dwindling, because you already got the experience you need. They might say you have already traveled a lot. Why is it that these people outside? But in all sense, these factors still stands, okay? Credibility, sufficiency, and of course the availability of the funds. They just need to know, and the relationship, your relationship to these people also matters a lot. Now, this is how you are going to be showing your proof of funds for F1 visa. Let's also talk about another option that you can use to show proof of funds for your F1 visa interview, or when you are asked who is going to be sponsoring you. You can equally use loans. Yeah, of course, loans are good. There are even organizations that give loans like Empower and some others. You can take loans. People have taken loans before and they use it. But there are a lot of things you need to consider when you are using a loan to study in the United States of America. Consider the payback period. Payback period is how you are going to pay the loan. You need to put this into consideration, and of course, who is the person giving you this loan? The embassy needs to look at this. You need to answer these questions. Who is giving you the loan, and how are you going to pay back the loan? And a lot of things start coming in. For example, if you are taking a loan, let's assume that maybe you already have $20,000 and you are taking a loan of maybe $10,000 or $12,000, or maybe even $4,000 or $5,000. Now it makes sense because you have some money, right? And the little you are taking as a loan, you want to just use it to support the other money you have on you, right? It makes sense, and the visa officer might start thinking and looking at your files somehow, because you have some money and you just need some to complete the money. But again, who is giving the loan and how do you intend to pay the loan still play a part here. Now, it's different in the case when you don't have any money at all. All right, when you don't have any money at all, and maybe you are going to be going to Florida State University, which is going to cost you maybe 35,000 or 40,000 US dollars per year. And you are telling the consular or the visa officer that you are taking a loan of 40,000, and maybe the loan that you are taking for 40,000, your program is going to last 2 years, and this 2 years is 80,000, right? They are now going to be looking at your chances. The loan that you are taking, $80,000, you don't have any cash. You just have to, you are taking a loan of let's say your loan is 40,000 for 1 year, and the other year 40,000. That's 80,000. Come on, how do you intend to pay this loan after you finish school? This is the question that has to come now to the table, and they will be looking at it. It becomes a very difficult task to defend yourself in this case. But again, you can still defend yourself. People have done that, and you just need to tell them the truthful facts about it. Okay, but it's not always good. Loans are not really the best. Even though you want to take a loan, just try to have some part of the money. It plays a very important role in your application, because if you are telling a visa officer, okay, I have 19,000, I just need 7,000 as loan to complete, and they will now be like, okay, this money is not that heavy. If you finish, you can, maybe from a credible source, you finish now, you can hustle up the money and pay. But if you start taking $40,000 in a, can you work $40,000 in 3 years in the United States? That is the question you should be asking yourself. Can you save that amount of money? And in certain cases, it becomes so difficult. So guys, this is how you show proof of funds, or you answer the question for proof of funds for F1 visa. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy the video, please do not forget to share with one person till we meet again in another one. Peace out.